Hey everyone, this is Jim Maybrick for Breach Bang Clear, and today we're going to be having a look at the two archetypical service revolvers, the Smith & Wesson Military and Police, and the Colt Official Police. In their various iterations, these 6-shot 38 Special revolvers were by far the most common handgun in American law enforcement and the shooting public for most of the 20th century. Let's have a closer look at each and see how they do on the range. But before we get to that, if you want a full deep dive into the history of these handguns and a full workup in ammunition, gear selection, etc., see the reviews in the pinned comment down below. The Smith & Wesson M&P is the earlier of the two. It is a medium frame or K-frame revolver introduced in 1899 as part of the U.S. government's request for a better service revolver in the lead up to the Spanish-American War. Ultimately, the Army went into another direction, but the M&P and the brand new 38 Special cartridge found success with law enforcement before being pressed into military service during World War II. Post-war, Smith & Wesson went to a numeric designation and the M&P became the Model 10, which is probably what the M&P is better known as now. Over the years, there were a number of engineering changes, as well as cosmetic changes in the grips, barrel, and sights. The bull barrel Model 10, which dominated police work well into the 1980s, is still in production. Even so, over 6 million of these are out there. This particular M&P was made all the way back in 1918 and is classed as the Model 1905 fourth change, of which close to 1 million were made until World War II broke out. It is a double-action, single-action revolver with an exposed hammer, a swing-out cylinder, and a push-forward cylinder release. It wears old service-style stocks and a more elaborate ejector rod and locking lug assembly that would be simplified later. Like all new Smith & Wessons, the cylinder locks up at the rear and at the front. It also has a locking bolt that drops anchor to lock the cylinder before firing. On the inside, aside from the addition of a later, more durable hammer block safety, the internals of this M&P are a little different from one you could find today. This old M&P features a 5-inch barrel, half-moon front sight, and a very shallow rear sight. That makes it very tricky to shoot, although it is a lot of fun to shoot. The Colt Official Police also started life as a way to upgun the Army. Colt released the Army Special in 1908 on a heavier 41 caliber frame that could take stouter ammunition like 41 Colt and 38 Special. It is the same frame that would later be used for the Colt Python, but it came a day late and $1 short as the Army by then really wanted a 45. But the Army Special was so popular on the civilian market that Colt gave up the Ghost and, with a few minor refinements, dubbed it the Official Police in 1927. The Colt was the more popular handgun as it was considered to be more accurate and could reliably handle higher pressure 38 Special rounds that started to show up in the 1930s. The Colt was picked up during World War II, but the company struggled in post-war years. The Official Police was discontinued in 1969 with over 400,000 made, making it a commercial success. My particular revolver is an old Army Special made in 1926. It lacks the checkered walnut grips and wider sights of the Official Police, but is mechanically and aesthetically identical. This one has a 6-inch barrel and slick walnut grips. Like the Smith, it is a double-action gun with a swing-out cylinder. The ejector rod hangs in space in conventional Colt fashion. The cylinder locks in a nub in the rear of the recoil shield like the Smith does, but the cylinder release that activates it is Colt's classic clamshell pullback cylinder release. The groundbreaking feature of the official police is the use of the positive lock, which prevents the hammer from igniting a cartridge unless the trigger is actually pulled. Aside from that, you can see that the trigger rebound is different than the recoil slide used on the Smith, and the hand is much more robust. Even if a Colt revolver starts going out of time, the hand will push the cylinder into battery as the trigger is pulled, so a tight lockup is retained. Some enthusiasts call it a bank vault lockup, and I definitely believe it. Alright, I have the Colt Army Special or Official Police Revolver loaded up with 6 rounds of 158 grain Federal round nose lead ammunition. We have a clean target at 10 yards. Let's go ahead and see what kind of accuracy we can get in double action. Alright, not bad. Let's try a little bit of single action for the head portion of this target. Let's try the Smith. I gotta say, the glare of the sunlight allows me to see that front sight just a little bit, but you can barely see it. Let's try 6 more rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Alright, single action. Okay, here's the group with the Colt. I have 1 round that went to the left portion of the target in single action, but more or less, you got a very respectable little group on the head in single action. On the body, respectable in double action. I was pulling them a little bit to the left, but that's probably a little bit with my too much finger on the trigger there. And down below is Smith & Wesson. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds in the head, a little bit looser of a group, and I have 1 flyer that's a little bit low and to the right. And double action, It's not too bad, a little bit tighter, but I have to say, depending on what day I wake up and how much caffeine I get, I could shoot them more or less the same, although the Colt might outshoot the Smith & Wesson on any given day, and vice versa. Overall, not too bad. I came into this rooting for the Smith & Wesson M&P. My first handgun was a Bull Barrel Model 10, and since then I've been a Smith & Wesson fan. Working with this one though, it shows how far the model has come, while also showing some of the same good shooting characteristics. But if it was 1930 and I had to pick, the official police would probably be my choice. It is a bigger handgun for sure, and shooting those standard pressure loads made recoil very tame, and I had no problems using 38 Special Plus P ammunition in the official police, although this elderly revolver deserves a little bit more gentler loads. Both have identical trigger pull weights in double action and in single action, although the Colt stacks a bit, and it is at its heaviest at the end of the pull, whereas the Smith has a more characteristic hill of the trigger. Light at first, then heavy, then suddenly lighter again. Accuracy between the two is probably ever so slightly in favor of the Colt, but it may as well be a draw, the only sticking point being that the Colt has wide and usable sights, while the early M&Ps have hammers that basically cover up the little sights that are there. So what do you think? Colt versus Smith & Wesson, a tale as old as time. Leave your comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.